Good morning, everyone, and happy Saturday. How's everyone doing this morning?
Good
Great.
morning.
Great,
Yay.
everybody.
All right. Well, it is Saturday, March 14th. For those that are new to this is Voices of HealthPointe. And what is HealthPointe? Well, HealthPointe is a program that we all are engaged with, either as coaches, as clients, maybe prospective coaches and clients are in this Saturday walk and talk. And this is what we call Voices of HealthPointe, where every Saturday we get together for 1 hour from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and just discuss things health point. It could be some docket items, which we'll go through, but a lot of it is just kind of a round robin discussion of like-minded individuals. And it's just a lot of fun to get together once a week and do this. For those that aren't able to be on live or choose not to, these do get uploaded to the Voices of HealthPointe YouTube channel. And so you can find that by searching on that. And often people also get the email that goes out that breaks down the episode into its different layers and with all the links in there as well. So look for that email or reach out to your coach to get that email. And it's got the YouTube links in there as well. But as we often do, we have some known docket items, and then we get into just kind of general discussion afterwards. And true to form, this morning I've got a docket item which is titled The 7 Unwritten Rules of HealthPointe. And then we have Laurel that's going to do a short segment on the counterintuitive title of Elephants and HealthPointe. Weren't we talking about manatees and HealthPointe last episode, Laurel? You and your counterintuitive titles. I love it. And then we've got Debbie Llewellyn that is going to be talking on a docket item titled Rewire Your Brain for Optimism. And we always love to hear from Debbie, and she was inspired on this by somebody that many of us know, and it's going to be a great topic. So we'll get rolling here, and let me do a mute all just so that I don't get interrupted here as I get into my docket item. And so again, remember everyone, as you, if you decide to talk in a bit, that you'll need to unmute yourself. So let's get going here. And first I want to share that the content shared here is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes to your health routine. Our discussions draw on wellness concepts similar to those found in the HealthPointe methodology, which we hold in very high regard. The ideas presented here, however, are independently developed and do not represent or speak on behalf of the HealthPointe brand. So as I mentioned, my docket item is called The 7 Unwritten Rules of HealthPointe. One of the interesting things about any structured health program is that over time, people begin to discover little techniques that are not always written in bold letters on page 1. They are not magic, they are not gimmicks, and they are usually not dramatic. They are simply practical. They are the kinds of things experienced health pointers begin to notice after a few weeks or a few cycles. Small adjustments, quiet strategies, useful techniques that make the whole system easier to live with. Because most people think success comes from motivation. It usually doesn't. More often, success comes from reducing friction. When a behavior becomes easier to do, more automatic to repeat, and less mentally expensive, it becomes far more likely to stick. In other words, the people who do well are often not the people with the most willpower. They are the people who gradually build the best structure. So today, I want to share 7 unwritten rules of HealthPointe. These are small techniques that experienced clients tend to discover along the way. The first one is called the bookend technique. Imagine you have a birthday party Saturday afternoon, a dinner out, or some social event that may not perfectly align with your goals. Most people look only at the event itself. They either try to be perfect during it or mentally surrender before it even begins. But the bookend technique looks at the days surrounding the event. In this example, Friday and Sunday. On those 2 days, you deliberately tighten things up. You make slightly stronger food choices. You increase your movement a bit. If your normal day, for example, is 10,000 steps, maybe you push that to 11,000 or 12,000 steps. You do that on Friday and you do it again on Sunday. Now, at first glance, you might think that the purpose of this bookend technique is simply to counteract whatever happens at the Saturday event. And yes, if someone were to completely go off the rails and eat endless cake at the birthday party, the bookends would provide some protection. But something more interesting usually happens. Because you approached the weekend strategically and came into Saturday strong and in control, you often do better at the event itself, better than you expected. So instead of simply neutralizing the event, the entire sequence, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, actually produces a step forward in results. What first appeared to be a high-risk situation often becomes, in hindsight, an advancement towards your goals. Number 2, call it the protein buffer. Many people don't make poor food choices because they're reckless. They make them because they waited too long. They got too hungry. And once hunger gets strong enough, biology and emotions start making decisions. That's where the protein buffer comes in. Before you go grocery shopping, before the drive home that passes your favorite Taco Bell, before navigating the donuts and bagels that appear in the office break room, have a protein snack. Maybe half a protein bar, a few gulps on a protein shake, or some lean protein that you just have prepared. Just enough to take the edge off, because protein changes the internal signals of hunger. It stabilizes blood sugar. It influences satiety hormones like ghrelin and leptin. It gives your brain time to think clearly. Without that buffer, hunger can feel like a big green monster demanding immediate attention. With the buffer, that monster shrinks down to a squeaky little pipsqueak that you can swat aside without much effort. You're no longer negotiating with your emotions and biology. You are working with it. Number 3, the phone timer technique. Another simple but powerful strategy is what we might call the phone timer technique. This actually came up this past Thursday. Some of you were probably on there. This past Thursday's 9 a.m. walk and talk when Susie was interviewing and spotlighting her friend and client, Lisa, who, by the way, had lost 30 pounds. Susie commented on how steady and consistent Lisa was with her protein snack and asked what her technique was. Lisa said something very simple. She said, "I just set the timer on my phone." Almost every phone has a timer feature or an app that can do this. With one touch, you can set your reminder for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, or 2 hours. Those are, what we have for the protein snacks. And when the timer goes off, you have your protein snack. That removes decision-making from the equation. Instead of wondering, when was my last protein snack? Or should I eat now or wait? The structure makes the decision for you. A very small adjustment, a very small technique, but one that creates remarkable consistency. Number 4 would be called step stacking. The 4th unwritten rule is step stacking. And we absolutely need to give a shout out to our step queen, Kathy Munoz, on this one. Kathy often references also the book Atomic Habits by James Clear on this topic because he more broadly addresses the concept of overall habit stacking. But the concept here relates to steps and how they accumulate. So for example, parking further away, not closer, anytime you find yourself in a parking lot. Okay? Taking the stairs, walking after meals, pacing while you're on the phone, taking several short walks throughout the day. Kathy also talks about strategic walking inside her office environment, and even at home, she sometimes deliberately does things in a slightly less efficient way, and that increases movement. For example, instead of folding a whole pile of clothes and then putting them away in one efficient trip, She may fold one item at a time and walk it to the closet or drawer. The same thing can happen while doing dishes or household chores. It's a subtle shift in mindset. Instead of trying to minimize movement, you begin to invite movement into everyday life. And over the course of a day, those steps definitely add up. Number 5 would be the reset protein day. Another powerful structure is the reset protein day. One of the most dangerous issues in health isn't one imperfect meal. A lot of people think that. Okay, it's not one imperfect meal. It's the meaning people attach to it. Someone slips a little off plan and suddenly the internal story becomes, well, today's ruined, or I'm a total failure. Then that one imperfect choice becomes an off track whole day or sometimes whole weekend. HealthPointe offers a much better structural response. You know how to reset. You simply know that every week you do a protein-only Monday. You know that you have that day every week to reestablish your rhythm. This Monday protein day becomes especially meaningful for people who are actually in lifetime maintenance. Because when you're actively engaged in back-to-back 6-week cycles, the structure of the program is very visible and engaging. But once you reach lifetime maintenance, the structure opens up a bit. You lose that tight daily focus and check-in. And that's where the weekly protein Monday becomes something many people look forward to. It reconnects you to the rhythm of the program. In fact, you often hear people talking about it on the Monday 9 a.m. walk and talks, and Carol Zampa actually often references it on the Monday evening lean team calls. It becomes a shared rhythm within the community. And although the word reset can be overused in health marketing, there really is something powerful about starting the week that way. When you begin Monday with protein, you're not just adjusting your metabolism. You're telling yourself something. This is what I do. It brings not only your fork back into the game, but your psyche as well. Number 6, the default snack rule. Another unwritten rule is the default snack rule. When many people hear the word snack, they think of whatever is convenient, sweet, crunchy, or comforting. But in HealthPointe, the internal definition is much simpler. A snack is protein. That could be a protein bar, a protein shake, or some other protein option. Now, for those in lifetime maintenance, the aperture of food choices does open up a bit around meals. So you may enjoy foods that have sweet or crunchy or comforting as part of that meal. But if you're snacking, the definition remains consistent. Even if the snack is a little sweet or crunchy, such as a small piece of protein bar, it still follows the rule. You don't simply redefine snacks as candy, donuts, or potato chips. The rule stays simple. Protein between meals. And that simplicity removes a tremendous amount of decision fatigue. Number 7, the problem-solving sequence. The final unwritten rule may actually be the master rule behind all the others. It's the problem-solving sequence. Our Australian friends in the HealthPointe community, from whom, of course, we've learned so much, sometimes wear shirts that say solutions, not excuses. For those of you that have seen that, I love that shirt. Solutions, not excuses, right across the front of it. And that captures the idea perfectly. When something goes wrong, experienced HealthPointers follow a process. Identify the problem, list possible solutions, choose the best one, set a realistic next step, and follow through. Over time, something remarkable happens. A mental muscle develops. People who are weak in this muscle tend to focus heavily on the problem. They explain it, they describe it, they repeat it, sometimes to their coach, sometimes to friends, but the seasoned HealthPointer moves quickly to solutions. In fact, a well-known author once described a rule he had with his staff. He told them, any fool can bring me a problem. But if they were going to bring them a problem, they were required to also bring 3 possible solutions they had already considered. Sometimes one of those solutions solved the problem before it even reached his desk. But even when it didn't, at least he knew they had engaged their thinking rather than simply dumping the problem in his lap. That is the difference between problem reporting and problem solving. And this unwritten rule doesn't just help in health, it helps in almost every area of life. So when you step back and look at these 7 unwritten rules together, something becomes clear. None of them require extraordinary willpower. They require structure, a protein buffer, a timer reminder, strategic walking, a reset day, a simple snack rule, bookends around risky events, and a mindset of solutions instead of excuses. These small techniques quietly reduce friction, and when the friction drops, consistency rises. That's why experienced health pointers often appear so steady and so consistent. They didn't just rely on motivation. They built structures and techniques that work virtually every day. And over time, those ordinary days add up to extraordinary results. Okay, guys, that's my docket item. Again, everybody is muted, so please unmute if you care to comment. I'll let anybody in. We've got some people that'll be joining us here. And so, and we've got our other docket items we can move right into as well. But if anybody has any comments on that, unmute and share. Otherwise, we'll move along.
I'll jump in since no one else is. And so I'm technologically illiterate. And so when I'm on those walk and talks and they ask for tips, I have no clue on how to get involved in that. But the tip that I always think of that I never hear spoken is the bookends that you shared. And I think that is just such a powerful strategy for success and have success in the program, but also success in having a great time at the birthday party, the wedding, or whatever event you're going to, and going to that event totally guilt-free, just free to enjoy the event. And hopefully, as you said, if when you do bookend, you tend to make better choices at that party. But even if you don't, it's just one day and you're coming back the next day and you're going to clean it all up. And so I think that is one of the best tips that I use all the time for someone who's in lifetime maintenance.
Yeah, it's a great comment, David. And yeah, because we all do it, particularly, you're just going on in life, lifetime maintenance. And, the reality is you're going to have those events that you're going to go to. You want to engage, and yet you want to have some of that structure around it. And actually, it's interesting that you key in on that one, David, because that is the one that I was yet again finding myself sharing this with a client this week. And I thought, that gives me my fodder for my Saturday walk and talk docket item, because I do reference it so much. I actually asked her, I said, before I go further, have I shared what's called the bookend technique with you? And she got back with me and said, no, that doesn't sound familiar at all. So I shared it. It really resonated with her. She was like, wow, I really love that. She made note of that and planned it into her event. And I thought, well, there's my fodder for this Saturday, or at least the start of it. So yeah, great stuff, David.
There's another, I loved all of your 7 comments, but number 6, the default snack rule. I just want to make one comment on that. Those of you that are on the professional the professional deal with Network 21, they've just added a audio in that's a panel of experts on HealthPointe. And one of the points made related to your snack rule, because it says really emphasize over and over again, never ever snack on fruit. And so that was just reminded me of that when you mentioned your number 6 default snack rule.
That's great. And thanks for queuing up that audio as well, because I have not listened to that. And I know I'm making a note myself here. Can't wait to listen to that one, Jerry. And yeah, and that's interesting too. And that is, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but how often it is out. You mentioned that, Jerry, that people that are new to the program, they comment that they're snacking on fruit. And that's just kind of, I'm just realizing this, and of course we catch that. Now, nowhere in the program does it say to do that, but I think what it is it sounds healthy, right? I'm going to snack on something like fruit. That's healthy and that's good. And yet that's not what we want to be doing. We want to have that fruit in a meal paired with, the rest of the meal, but not just hitting your blood sugar and spiking it up sky high. But yeah, Jerry, that's a great one. I can't wait to listen to that audio, but it is one that is something that I don't want to say people come to the check-in like almost like proudly stating it, because of course we don't, want them to, feel bad about it. It is good that they're eating fruit, but it's not what they want to be snacking on.
Eric,
Yes, Hank.
hi. Just listening to you. One of my favorites protein is a Greek yogurt. We buy this Greek yogurt, which is really good stuff, and I just spray a little bit, maybe raspberry squeeze tube in there, just a little bit of it, stir it up, and take a number of spoonfuls of that and put it together, and it's really good and really very satisfying. Thought I'd share that with you.
Love that. Yeah, that Greek yogurt. So for anybody that's new or listening to this, sometimes when people hear yogurt, they picture the yogurt packs that have all the berry gooey stuff mixed in, at the bottom that you got to stir in. No. What Hank is saying is that nice clean Greek yogurt, number of different brands out there that have it. And then the raspberry flavor glucosamine twist tube. I use the same one, Hank. That's my favorite. I squirt that raspberry twist tube. Oh my gosh, is that delicious when mixed with the Greek yogurt. And I'm like you, Hank. I like to be like you more and more, as much as I can be like you. But when it comes down to the protein snack, I've got that in the refrigerator as well. Love that as a protein snack.
You're doing great. Just stay on track. You'll get there.
You got it.
Getting in with the Greek yogurt, I absolutely love that. Along with Hank, there's two brands: Stonyfield Organic Greek, which is rated one of the top, and another one is called Maple Hill, and it's a grass-fed protein yogurt. And when you are buying yogurts, look for the ingredients. They should have basically two ingredients: the dairy product, which would be your full milk, and then your probiotics. If it's got a bunch of other things in it, stay away from those, because those are what Eric was talking about. The other thing too on that is a really nice add-on if you're on Add More Food Days and you're having trouble adding more protein or adding more carb into your meal. You can take the Greek yogurt as a little dessert and then add, some of the tiny little Maine blueberries that Hank always talks about. And so you've got an extra protein and an extra carb. And I'm not in front of my paperwork or anything, but based on the amount of extra that you need, sometimes that is nice, instead of thinking about, oh, I got to eat more meat or I got to eat, more vegetable or whatever. That's a nice little, it's like a dessert really, but you can add that right into your meal. And also in the habit of that with the lifetime maintenance, that's a really, really nice thing to have regularly in your refrigerator. And I like what you touched on, Eric, on the lifetime maintenance too, because I think this is where a lot of people really stumble. And I think sometimes you have to be more diligent as you move into lifetime maintenance than perhaps you even had to be on the program, because now you're a free goose.
Mhm.
And there are no limitations. And in many cases, I personally think that maybe even staying accountable for a while after, until your comfort zone sets in, of what you're doing. But even if you don't, boy, you have to be really diligent in forming those habits that now are going to be lifetime habits, and that means things like getting something that's healthy but very fun to eat, like Hank said, the yogurt, and put the fruit in there, make a little parfait on it. Even use it during the day, as a snack if you're on lifetime maintenance and you're not worried about losing weight. You can add a little fruit in there with it, and but those things really add to that lifetime maintenance to create healthy eating, that your refrigerator, when you open it, you don't have to worry about making poor choices because they're just not in there anymore. They just kind of faded away as time went on and you started moving into the healthier choices. So thank you. That was a really, really good summation, Eric.
You bet. And just to double click a bit on what you're saying there, as far as you're a free goose, as you said it, and it's a fun way to describe it. And again, it's one of those things that seems counterintuitive. It seems like it would be like easier, and it seems like it would be harder and less enjoyable to be structured and like in a 6-week cycle. But there's something about that structure. I don't know. I would akin it to, I don't know, this just pops in mind. We all went through grade school, right? Where, just knowing that when that bell rings, you go into class. When that bell rings, you get out of class, or whatever. That structure builds in almost a simplicity and a rhythm to things that is attractive in a sense, even though it sounds like, arduous and structured and boring. But when you're in the active and back-to-back 6-week cycles, you've got that. And then when you break from that because you've hit your ultimate weight loss goal and you're moving into this lifetime maintenance, you're kind of a little bit adrift, perhaps, as you say, kind of a free goose, and sounds attractive on the surface, but maybe it's not so much. And that's what I wanted to point out, is there is always this one remaining structural element. I don't care if you're listening to, like Jerry was talking about, the audios in the broader Network 21 app. I've heard audios, from leaders in South Africa and Australia, or all over, and they're just commenting that Monday is their protein only day, and that is that one remaining piece of structure that you can hang on to for the rest of your life, and it keeps you from, it's attractive, it's fun, and it makes you feel like you're part of that community every Monday as well. So, Laurel, I see a hand up, but
yeah, I
chime
was
in.
just gonna add, you were going back to your 7 things. After 12 back-to-back cycles that I've done, you get plenty of opportunities for events and stuff. And what I was thinking about when you were talking is some events kind of, at least in my life, aren't a one-day thing. They're like, around our house, we got a lot of blended families, and so Christmas is like, starts like 2 weeks before Christmas with this family, and then something on this day and something on that day. So, and also I always think about this, what you just mentioned about the lifetime maintenance. I'm going, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? It's like this thing that looms out there. I'm not looking forward to it because I'm not a routine person. And so this routine has helped. But anyway, the 2 things I think I would use out of all those that I know I use on those days, I kind of, for lack of a better term, I guess I would call it intermittent bookends. And a good example would be, we just had company down here in Florida, and it really stretched over a 3-week period. Well, these are cousins who I know. They like to go out to eat. They like to, one of them had a birthday. So I knew there was going to be some celebrating going on. So I kind of picked and chose and did bookends, like every third day I was bookending something, and so I think that, and also there were more than just Monday protein days. It was like when things went awry, and I'd say, okay, so I would declare it. I found, I'm close enough with my cousins; they're like older sisters, and I just said, okay, well, let's do that today because I'm declaring tomorrow a protein day. And they kind of got the hang of it. They'd go, somebody grab a piece of fruit, and my one cousin goes, oh, I'm not supposed to eat fruit, am I? I go, well, it was just funny. So I think intermittent bookends and protein days, you don't want to change the program, obviously, but when you get in those situations where it's going to be, a trip, you don't want to not go on your trip, but you got to plan ahead. And as you said, choice and planning ahead, those all help. And once you're choosing, like David said, when you're choosing it, you've made the decision. It gives you power over whatever you're doing, and then you always got a protein day to fall back on. So, okay, I just thought I'd add that.
Yeah, I love that because that, we define this bookend technique as like we always use the example of the Saturday birthday party, but the reality is like you said, Laurel, the reality of life is rarely that Saturday birthday party. It's more of the several days with relatives or something like that. That's kind of the bigger or the more common scenario. So I really appreciate you kind of like addressing that, kind of sharing how you experience it with your cousins and so forth, and also kind of how they kind of came along with you on that and kind of picked up on things, and just being mindful of it, and just knowing that you've got an arrow in your quiver called the bookend technique, a strategy that you can pull out at any time called kind of the bookend technique. Yeah, we kind of have it going ourselves, Emily and I, and we grabbed my dad and went and visited an aunt that we hadn't seen in a while, and she joyfully was in charge of dinner, which meant that we were not. And it was we'll just say, I mean, it was delicious, it was wonderful, and it was great, but it was more pasta than I've seen in a while, and and so it's all good though, right? We that's the thing, is you don't panic. Can you imagine, I can't even imagine, what it used to be like, if just imagine if you are out there just trying to get healthy and you have none of this that we've got, this community, these techniques, these processes, and everything, but you just get thrown into that same situation. It's got to be just like distressing. It's got to be anxiety filled, because what do you do? You're not sure what to do. And here with us, we know what to do, and we know how to do it. And it definitely releases anxiety around it. So great stuff. Fun stuff. Very fun. All right. Well, Laura, we're going back to you on your docket item of elephants and HealthPointe, if you're ready for that.
Okay. Well, at Carol's request, I thought I would share this. It came, I mean, you can read about it online, but let me just read it. Let me stop for a second here. I'm out in the middle of the jungle. Okay. This reminded me of, and Carol, it reminded us of HealthPointe, and I'll take a little bit of poetic license to change it a little bit so it applies to everybody, not just the females in the group. But it's a tale of friendship and unity. In the vast wilderness, the female elephants, see, I'm channeling athletes. The female elephants stand as powerful friends. When one of their sisters calls for help, they gather around her, trunks entwined in a show of unity. They stand guard, and with a gentle swish of their ears, they disperse the air of any danger that might loom. They do this with a lot of the during birth and during any time like that. So it is with us humans. This is our true essence, and this is how we are meant to be with each other. Sometimes we are the ones seeking comfort. Sometimes we are the ones dispersing the clouds of fear with our friendship. But the circle of sister or brotherhood remains unbroken. So thank you for being part of my circle.
Love that. What a visual too, you know.
Well, it's pretty fascinating. I was kind of looking at online, and there's like videos of it, of all the examples of what these, it's a matriarchal system in the elephants, and it's just fascinating what they do. And it just reminded me of Network 21 and HealthPointe, obviously, as a group. And anyway, so good stuff.
I have to also butt in and say, Laurel looks amazing, amazing. We were out with them last night, and if I can be a little transparent, Laurel kind of got stuck at a memory weight that she's breaking loose of now, but it was a lesson in endurance. But I will tell you something, even though the scale didn't move, and here you go with the non-scale victories, something did go away because Laurel looks much more slender without the scale even moving. So sometimes to encourage people, good morning, sometimes to encourage people when the scale gets kind of stuck at a memory weight for a while, sometimes it can be weeks. I remember Phyllis Wallace, it was a month, and she just stuck with it. But during that time, sometimes the greatest transformation is taking place within you. And I always say, did you take your measurements lately? Sometimes people don't realize that the measurements are changing, not just the number on the scale. So I have to say that Laurel looks amazing. That's all I'm going to
And
say.
Yes, you do, Laurel. And, you know, maybe it was just a scale after it went down 10, 20, 30, and then what, up to like 60, 70. I think the scale just said, well, hold on a second. I'm just going down. You're down 70 pounds or so. So maybe the scale was just giving you some attitude.
Well, to be perfectly transparent, I checked the batteries even because I thought, oh, this can't be right. Then I accused Al of standing on it and weighing it and adjusting something, and so anyway, it is what it is. It's just like I exhausted all those possibilities, which I guess is pretty normal. And I just laugh at myself and go, okay, let's look at your HealthPointe eating. Let's look at your steps. Let's look at the things. Stop looking at batteries. So,
well,
Yeah.
just a thought. Can I throw a thought in here? Uh,
Yeah.
all the walking is building muscle, and
Yeah.
muscle weighs more than fat.
right.
So
Right.
there's that transition that's happening in your body anyway. The scale may not move, but it's still happening because they got to the parking lot before we did. Last night we went out to dinner with them, and she was walking to the place already. I said, "Wow, Carol, look at how good Laura looks," and it's visible, but the scale doesn't show it. So I just want to share that.
Mhm.
Well,
Hmm.
thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. I mean, that muscle, like you're saying, Hank, weighs, there's a weight to that. So, and
Mhm.
that's where Carol mentioning about taking measurements and then also just intuitively, how you feel, your strength. And then Hank, right to your point, you've got to account for that muscle. You're adding muscle, you could be getting way more fit and that scale can be staying exactly the same. You're losing. Now, you can measure that. It's a little bit more involved. I get engaged in that with a bit. You've heard me reference what's called the in-body machines. Um, but if you do an in-body scan, it will measure percentage of body fat. It will measure SMM, which is skeletal muscle mass. And you can see, over time, because muscle's not going to develop in a day. I mean, it will, but not measurable. But if you measure it out, month over month, you can see the changes in your skeletal muscle mass and also your percentage of body fat. But the scale itself, the number on the scale could be exactly the same, and those two numbers could be dramatically different. And it's absolutely a different human being, even though the number on the scale is exactly the same. So,
And even if you're not privy to an in-body scan, which I think are marvelous, but sometimes folks, don't have access to or don't know where to go or don't want to put the money out or whatever it might be. Those Tanita scales that we had years ago, And now scales today will measure a number of those things. The scale I bought, I'm going to say, well, whenever we did the Tanita scales, that was probably 20 years ago, measures body percentage of body fat, visceral fat, water, bones strength, all of that kind of stuff. It measures so many different things. So a lot of your scales today do, at least they might not give you to you as exact as perhaps a very high-end scanning, but they do give you an idea of progression. And so, if you just have a regular scale, you might want to look at, they're not expensive. You might want to go on Amazon and look at one that gives you more readings. And they're very effective. They're very effective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it's remarkable. I mean, the technology that's continuing to come along. You've got some that work similar to the in-body. They may not be clinical grade, but when you're the ones where you're actually grabbing onto a handle and so you're making contacts with your hand as well as your feet, that works using what's called bioelectrical impedance, which is, it's moving a slight electrical current through your body to take the measurements. And the in-body, I'll just comment on this because they're not, you wouldn't want to buy a machine. I mean, the machine that I have access to through the University of Michigan Health System is about a $15,000 machine. So not exactly home use purchase for most people anyways. But a lot of clinics, gyms, and so forth will be listed on the InBody website, and maybe for $20 or $50, or sometimes they're free because it brings traffic into their doorway. It may be a conversation with somebody. There's always that where people could get engaged in, talking with a health coach, but, it could be a $20 charge, to go in there once every month or once every 2 months and do an in-body scan and seeing where that's at. So, but it's, as you say, Carol, there are more and more devices that are available that are really good. And, but basically, even if it's not getting a clinical grade measurement, what matters is the delta, the difference between, your measurement in March versus your measurement in June, right? And that's going to show that, even if that, it's kind of like the discussion that sometimes comes up with consumer grade glucose monitors that you can, put on your arm, continuous glucose CGMs. Sometimes people initially are like, oh my gosh, I don't know, is this accurate? Is it not? Look, it's what you're looking at is your blood sugar over time. So whether that measurement itself at 112 millimoles per deciliter is exactly the same as what you got when they did a blood draw at your doctor, that doesn't really matter. What matters is it 112 and then 240, 3 hours later after you had a Krispy Kreme donut? That's what matters. Let's not get too caught up in the weeds and the details of this. Let's look for trends. Let's look for behavior and measurement over time. So anyhow,
that might be called cherry picking your measurements, cherry picking the time you take your tests.
yeah, very, very, very true. Yeah.
Eric, early on, you recommended that, or you talked about that Keto Mojo blood testing where you can check your glucose and your ketones. And I did purchase one of those, and I use it intermittently, especially when, like lately, I'm going, okay, let's just check, because you think you're burning ketones, but maybe you're not. And so that's a blood thing. So it gives you kind of some instant information, and it's helpful. Like I said, I don't use it all the time, but I do use it when I'm looking, re-examining things. So that was a good recommendation I thought you made. So.
Oh, great. Yeah. And aren't those it's been a while since Emily and I have gotten ours, but they're, what, like 50, 60, $70 or something
Yeah,
like that,
I
maybe?
think so. I think something, and then periodically you got to buy, you know, some extra
The
test
strips.
strips. But
Yeah.
yeah, it wasn't. I mean, if it had been, I don't think. I'm sure it wasn't over $100 because I would
Right.
have, I would have probably thought, well, do I really need it? But anything under 100, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
a sucker for
Especially
that.
something that gives such insight. I mean, the old HealthPointe stuff, I still come across from time to time, and they reference, the strips, the urine
Right,
strips, and they're not as accurate, for a variety of reasons. But yeah, the Keto Mojo is going to measure glucose, and it's also going to measure, as you say, ketones. You've got two different strips, the light blue pack and the brown pack, right,
right,
Laurel? You
right,
can relate to that, right? So you got
right.
the powder blue ones and the dark ones. And yeah, usually once a year, I'll do a full 6 week cycle just to, first of all, it's kind of timely coming out of the holidays. And secondly, I just kind of want to get my head really back in the game so that, I can relate to everybody that I'm coaching. And my point is that I'll do the 3 protein days, and I'll use the Keto Mojo and track that, as you say, going into what's called nutritional ketosis. And so it's really fun to see, and you can start to feel it too. That's the other thing, is you build that interoception, is what they call it, where you have that more acute body awareness, where you know what's happening in your body. So I can feel when I'm going into nutritional ketosis. But for me, it's really fun to kind of see that number after 1 protein day on Monday, not there, 2 protein days on Tuesday. Not it moves the needle, but it's still not into nutritional ketosis. But on Wednesday, actually the Thursday morning reading, bam, I'm there, and I'm in nutritional ketosis, and can feel it. But yeah, Keto Mojo, 50, $60, great device for that, for sure. Um, Debbie, and your docket item of rewiring your brain for optimism. If you're there, Debbie, would love to hear from you.
I am, and it's so coincidental that Laurel mentioned elephants because they're also known for good memories. And this article that I have is actually an article that Laurel, I believe, shared with us months ago on optimism because it talks about the best possible self. So, optimism is a mental attitude of expecting favorable outcomes, acting as a key driver of resilience, better health, and goal achievement. It boosts mental health by improving coping mechanisms, reduces stress, and increases longevity by encouraging proactive health behaviors. And then it said in the Ralph's article, it said optimism is associated with an 11 to 15% longer lifespan even after accounting for factors like depression, socioeconomics status, chronic illness, and health behaviors. It said that researchers analyzed more than 150,000 older adults and found that optimism was positively linked with healthy aging markers like stronger grip, faster chair stand times, physical benchmarks of functional independence. And then it goes on to why it adds to your life. You're more proactive and oh, excuse me, let me go back. Optimism isn't about naivete. It's a practical mindset that fuels healthier choices and boosts resilience. Studies suggest that optimistic people are more proactive about preventative health measures, better at stress management, which reduces inflammatory load and cortisol over time, more socially connected, which is independently associated with reduced mortality risk, more likely to persevere when my eyes, I don't have my glasses on, I apologize, more likely to persevere when faced with health setbacks or life challenges. And this is the part that helped me remember that this was Laurel's article, was step by step, the best possible self practice. Visualize your best future. Imagine yourself at a point in the future where everything has gone as well as it possibly could. You've worked hard, stayed true to your values, and things have unfolded in the most fulfilling way. What does that look like? Where are you? Who are you with? How do you feel?
Write it down in detail. Spend 10 to 15 minutes about the future, about that future, specific terms. The act of writing helps it crystallize your vision and strengthens the neural pathways that reinforce it. And then you add a mental rehearsal. But basically, that's it. I guess I did optimism. And so I went back and found some things to help me remain optimistic.
Love that. And you,
Oh,
I
the
think you
best
mentioned.
part, in another article, it said practice gratitude. Regularly reflecting on positive aspects of life can cultivate an optimistic outlook.
So good. David.
Well, we mentioned earlier about Bob Andrews. And so Bob Andrews' term, which fits for a 60s kid who played in a rock and roll band, is to be hallucinogenically optimistic.
Yeah, that was a Bob Andrews ism. That was a fun way to say it. Yeah.
The other thing about it is that it can be learned. In another article that I found, utilizing positive self-talk and affirmations, such as focusing on what can be controlled, can help shift thinking patterns. And it also task-focused coping. Rather than avoiding challenges, focusing on steps to reach a goal improves optimistic outlooks.
That's so important to point out, Debbie. Thanks for adding that it can be learned.
Yeah, so it's not something that you have to be born with. You can develop optimism, so you don't have to feel doomed for the rest of your life that you're not optimistic.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen. You got to work at it too. If it's going to stay there. Yeah.
And that's the power of those daily messages, because wow, I just don't know how somebody can stay positive without getting a daily input, even half an hour of an audio that just gets their mind straightened out, because there's a lot of turmoil in the world, in families, in jobs, and everything. And so sometimes we have to, I call it center yourself without getting woohoo. Sometimes you have to just step back and center yourself. Get into that gratefulness that Debbie talked about, the audios, all of that, and the gratitude article that Laurel gave us. Gosh, was that 4 weeks ago or something? That everybody coveted. Yeah, but it's very important. Very important.
Well, that's where last week when we talked about awe, experiencing awe, I think, was that last week? I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
whatever.
but I found another article. Maybe I'll share it next week. It's about bending time. So that'll be a good one. That it kind of speaks to awe and stuff. But I wanted to share real quick one of the things that I was thinking about. How do I experience awe? And one of the things that I have done regularly for a long time is when I'm walking like this, I will take my camera, and if I see something, I'll pause for a minute, something that'll make a good picture. Like while we were talking just a minute ago, took a picture of the alligator floating in the water and just spent a little time looking at him. And so I think if you think about trying to capture with your phone while you're walking, even if you don't take the picture, just look for opportunities to take what would be something you could hang on a wall. Not that you're going to do that, and that's kind of how I get my 30 seconds of awe in as I'm doing my walk. So just a little tip there.
There's also a lot of email strings that you can get on that have inspirational quotes, or they have biblical quotes, and they're just a one-liner, but they just absolutely make you feel so grateful. They just bring you back from wherever you are to where you need to be. And I like to screen shoot those, and I throw them in a folder called Inspiration in my gallery, my photo gallery. And those are really good if somebody needs inspiration or if I need inspiration. I know exactly where to go, and it's a concentration of those things that I can go through, and within 5 minutes, it can make all the difference for me or somebody I sent it to. So sometimes capturing those things, and it doesn't take much to get on those algorithms on your email. All you have to do is pull up one inspiration, and boy, you're going to get it every day, and then something else will come in. But they're all wonderful. Better do that than some of the other stuff that gets attached to your emails. So make an inspiration folder.
I I think we just hit a threshold here in our Voices of HealthPointe. We now have Carol Zampa talking about algorithms in this program. I love it.
Oh, that's my favorite word.
This is someone that is just brilliant in their ability to convey things, but now you're usually not just opining about tech and stuff like that, kind of just the opposite. But to hear you talking about algorithms is, whoo, we are moving strongly here. That's awesome. But it is so true. Go ahead, David.
I know we're short on time, but I just wanted to tread softly as I strive to edify my mentor and coach, Hank. But the story that I recall hearing from Hank is that when he initially got in the business and started listening to audios and going to the meetings, that he accidentally went to Ford Motor Company with a smile on his face. And everybody wanted to know what's wrong. You don't go to engineering with a smile on your face. So if an engineer can become positive, man, anything is possible.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, we all know and love Hank, the version of Hank that we now know, right? Enthusiastic and optimistic and connector. But looping back to Debbie's point, it can be learned, right? That's the thing.
It can be learned, and as Hank also will share, he had a big goal and a big dream that motivated him to strive to change.
Yeah. We lost you there for a bit, David, but we caught that, he had a big goal and it motivated him to strive to change and so forth. And yeah, just a brief comment just on Debbie's article, because again, optimism, wow, what a topic, what a skill. If you think about it in the context of like health and wellness, we talk about that, right? When somebody begins their journey, to be able to imagine. And that's kind of what it is. It's a form of imagination, of imagining, if you were at your ultimate health goal, if you were at that, whatever it is, we could put some numbers to that from a weight standpoint, but if it brings them out of the here and now, what they are, and if they just let it wash over them, imagine, as you said, Debbie, in detail, what would that be like? How would you have conversations? What clothes would you be wearing? What would you be doing if you're not walking or able to walk very much right now? What would that be like? Truly imagining that, I would be walking. Okay, where would you be walking? How would you be walking? Getting that detail. This is not a skill that you're born with. This is something that takes practice. And I also will say, takes some silence. That's one of the biggest robbers, I think, of optimism and this dreaming and imagining, is if we are consumed with having to fill, almost in an ADHD way, every second of everything with something that's stimulating or taking our attention. But if instead, in a prayerful state, in a mindful state, in a meditative state, I think ideally daily, I know for myself, it's in the morning, where I will just let that, call it optimism, that vision, just wash over me, of not what will it be, but like, it's now. That's the power of the human mind, is that we can step into that future state now. It takes practice, but we can do it. And whether that's a health goal or a business goal or a life and family goal, some quiet time, some daily deliberate quiet time, and some repetition to build that optimism muscle. So, Debbie, thanks for going through that. It kind of plays on some things that we love to talk about here in our Voices of HealthPointe. Laurel's topic on awe and gratitude, so very powerful. Well, we are wrapping up here. Any notes on things coming up? I guess I'll make note that this afternoon, we've got Network 21, because of the growth and the engagement with HealthPointe, is really coming into the fold with so much available training. We had one last Saturday, it was amazing. And then they teed up another one for this Saturday. I think it's 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, correct.
Yep. And so if you're not aware of that, you can check with your coach if you want to get engaged with that. I think it's geared towards business owners, I think. But I think others can.
Yeah, we've gotten, I think I've gotten a little clarification on this. If anything else, I'll make sure I let everybody know. But I did talk to Natalie about that. And she said if a person is not, for readiness, for time, whatever, not a Network 21 slash Amway IBO yet, haven't taken advantage of their complimentary membership, that's fine. If you're a customer, that's fine. But some customers are really priming themselves very, very well for being a coach. They're just not quite there. Maybe something's going on in their life they have to deal with first, and they don't want to waste that complimentary. So let your coach know that. And my understanding is they won't have a ticket for today, but what they will do through their coach or through me or you, Eric, be able to get a shareable replay. And that will be after the function. The other thing I highly, highly, highly recommend is if you are within driving distance of your coach or an encourager that you have, however, whatever your situation is, counsel upline, try to connect with them and watch it with them. If you are wanting to build a business, because you'll have questions and your coach will be able to help and mastermind with you the timing of everything, because timing is important and your coach can help you with that.
So that's great. So did I understand you correctly that with your conversation with Natalie, she was saying, like, let's say a client, because like you say, some clients are almost more business-like, and because people are asking them, how'd you lose weight? And they're sharing it. And so they're kind of seeing this. But if they're not yet a business owner, they're a client, they might not be able to attend via a link today, but they can get the shareable link from their coach and watch it on replay.
Yes, that's correct.
Oh.
And then we have a 7-day replay in there, or you can meet up if it's possible for you to meet up with your coach to do a replay or do the first go around. But yeah, you can't just go on Network 21 and purchase a ticket.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, for those of us that are going to be on there for the 3 p.m., although it won't be Zoom, we won't see each other's faces and hear each other. We'll know that each other are watching, and it gives that sense of community nonetheless. And really looking forward to that. I know they're really going to dig into some really strong things. Of course, we've got the Monday night lean team with Carol, and as well as the Monday morning. So lots out there for things to tap into, to plug into. But for this episode of Voices of HealthPointe, we are coming to a wrap. It is mid-March. It is March 14th. We were talking in the preamble, at least here in our area in Michigan, about like one of the strongest all-day winds we've ever had. And they say, what's the saying? That March comes in like a lion, goes out like a lamb. Well, the lion part has kind of been true to form. I mean, we were driving back and it was literally, I had to watch a gas gauge because of the headwinds. It was incredible what we were experiencing, but it's quiet this morning. So maybe that lamb-like March is happening. Who knows? But we'll plan on seeing everyone next week, same time, same place. Till then, bye-bye.
Have a
Bye,
great
Eric.
weekend,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Have a great
Thank
week.
you, Eric.